Shabbat Shalom. So did anyone come up with an answer for how Esau is like an open piano? All right, well, I'll share my perspective on it. When we moved here this summer, we had our piano tuned, and the technician, his name is Fred, he said, well, you know, you actually have a very fine instrument here. And I was surprised. I'd always thought it was somewhat mediocre. We'd bought it secondhand, and he said, no, when Baldwin built these pianos, they really built them to last. They were built for schools and institutions where they were going to get a lot of use. He said, when you're ready, I'll service the piano, and you'll see it will open up the sound tremendously. So he came by Wednesday morning, and I was working on this sermon, and I came out into my living room, and I didn't know that a piano could be broken apart into so many pieces. It was all over the living room. So I asked him, what exactly are you doing to the piano? And he explained, you see, a piano, when you hit the key, there's a hammer inside that taps a string, and when it hits the string, it makes a note. And there are these 4 little pegs in each key / arm and hammer. And each of these pegs, I could barely see them, and I still have pretty young eyes. Each of these pegs needed to be oiled. He also pointed to the dust that had gathered in the piano. And he said, you know, this piano's about 50 years old, and I can tell you it's never been serviced, because when you lubricate these 4 tiny pegs per key times 88 keys, it leaves a small stain on the wood. And I don't see any staining. So this piano that had had a somewhat dusty, dry, and closed sound now has this beautiful open sound. And I thought, well, that's a lot like human relationships. If you're willing to take yourself apart, to expose yourself, and to be vulnerable, you can make beautiful music with another human being once you've been put back together, right? So Esau, we're going to do a close reading of the text this morning together. Esau is like an open piano, and Jacob is like the piano sitting with 50 years of dust blocking the sound. If you'd like to follow along, I'll try to point out the different lines in the text that had me thinking about relationships in this way. We start on page 198. So Jacob's going home after decades, and the very first thing he does is he sends servants. He does not go to greet his brother Esau in person. He sends a messenger. And the message he sends is in line 5. To my lord Esau, thus says your servant Jacob, I stayed with Laban and remained until now. I have acquired cattle, asses, sheep, and male and female slaves, and I send this message to my lord in the hope of gaining your favor. Maybe if I have enough cool stuff, right, I can impress my older brother. I don't go myself and start with, I'm really sorry I screwed things up between us. I tell my brother, hey, look what I've accomplished. Don't you want to be friends with a cool guy like me? So his servants come back, and in line 7, they say, we came to your brother Esau. He himself is coming to meet you. So Esau has a very different reaction. When he hears that Jacob's back in town, he doesn't want to send a servant. He wants to see his brother as soon as possible and rushes off to meet him. But Jacob reacts with fear. He ends up praying to God, again, all about stuff, right? Not about feelings, but about stuff, right? God, you promised me, he says on page 199, that you would make me bountiful. And then on page 200, he's thinking about, again, how to greet his brother. And it says, after spending the night there, he selected from what he had at hand these presents for his brother Esau. 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats, the list goes on. So instead of using words to say, I'm really sorry that I messed things up between us, he's putting objects in between them, right? He thinks if I give you enough presents, or bouquets of flowers, or boxes of chocolates, right, that it'll be better. He can't find the words. He's like the closed-up, dusty piano. Nevertheless, you'll see at the bottom of page 200, that same night, he sends his wives across the river, and then he's left alone on page 200, and he dreams. And like many human beings, the truth comes to him when his conscious mind is somewhat dampened. He starts wrestling with an angel, and the Midrash has many interpretations of who that angel might be. But for me, the line of truth is what he wants from the angel. He says, I won't let you go until you bless me. It is all about that blessing he stole. And he knows in his dreaming mind that until he deals with that peace, he's never going to feel better. It doesn't matter how many cows he tries to put in between himself and his brother. He needs to say, I stole words and feelings from our Father that I can never return to you, and I'm sorry. But upon waking, as many of us do when we're faced with the most truthful moments, we go on as we have without the dream, right? We don't take it in. So at the beginning of chapter 33, we see Esau. Esau, who's the wronged party. Esau, who has every right to say to his little brother, I hate you. But that's not what he does. He comes, and in line 4, chapter 33, verse 4, Esau ran to greet him. He embraced him, and falling on his neck, he kissed him and he wept. Looking about, he saw the women and the children. Who, he asked, are these with you? He's never met his sister-in-laws or his nephews or his niece, and he can't wait to meet him. He's like this opened up piano, right? He's just waiting for Jacob to help put them back together so they can make music together. And Jacob can't deal with it. He kind of hints at an apology, though. It's very interesting. In line 11, he's still pushing the presents on his brother. And in line 11, he says, Kach na et birchati. What it means is, please take the gift I'm offering you. But that word, birchati, comes from the same root as bracha, as blessing. So that is as close to Jacob, as to an apology as Jacob can get, is to use that hint of the language, let me give you your blessing back. So he pushes off these gifts onto his brother, and then Esau says in line 12, let us start on our journey, and I will proceed at your pace. So Esau says, essentially, I forgive you. I want you to come and visit me in my home in Seir. Let's go together. And Jacob has made excuses. I can't go that quickly. I have small children and cattle. And Esau says, well, I'll go at your pace. So we could read that on the surface level, which is about how quickly or slowly one is walking. Or we could read that on a more emotional level, which is Esau says, let's be a family again. And Jacob says, I'm not sure I can handle that. And Esau says, I'll take what I can get. I'll go at your pace. But in the end, Jacob never shows up in Seir. He doesn't go and join Esau. He goes to Sukkot. Now, at least Esau got some form of reconnection, maybe a hint of an apology. But what about his father Isaac? If you look at page 215, this is the only account that we have of Jacob being with his father Isaac again. Line 27. And Jacob came to his father Isaac at Mamre, at Kiryat Arba, now Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had sojourned. Isaac was 180 years old when he breathed his last, and he died. He was gathered to his kin in his ripe old age, and he was buried by his sons Esau and Jacob. It's not clear to me from the text that Jacob ever took the opportunity to speak to Isaac in person before his death. And after this account of the boys burying their father together, we never hear about the twin brothers speaking to each other again. So my blessing for all of us this morning is that, and it sounds a little backwards because we usually want to be like our ancestor Jacob, but I think in this case, I bless us to be like our ancestor Esau, that we're willing to have the technician take us apart a little bit and oil those 4 tiny bushings per hammer, per key, so that we can make sweet music together. Ken Yehi Ratzon, may it be God's will.